Committee. Okay. Oh, excellent. I open up the Braintree School Committee meeting of April 23rd, 2020. Call to order. Routine matters. We have two sets of minutes we have to approve. The minutes from our April 2nd and our April 14th minutes. I'd like to, do we have any comments or questions in regards to those minutes? Hearing none, actually, I think we can take them as a group. I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as they've been given to us.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. McCorris and a second by Mr. Chafe. Ms. Dolan?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor? We'll have to work with him. Ms. Lemaire?
Aye.
Mr. Koukouris?
Aye.
Ms. Soros?
Aye.
Mr. Chafe? Aye. And the chair votes aye. We'll find out what's going on with the mayor. Motion passes. Communications and accommodations. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay, never mind. Excuse me. We've had to shuffle our agenda around a little bit. Okay. From the superintendent and staff. Take it away, Doctor.
Good evening, everybody. Hopefully we are getting better at this every single time we do it. I do want to also mention that South Middle School Principal David Rainey is with us this evening, as well as East Middle School Principal John Sheehan. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about how the experience is going at the middle school level. So there will be a few slides on that. So as you know, the governor on Tuesday, 21st, 2 days ago, issued the order to extend the school closure from what was going to be a return of May 4th to what is now going to be a return, no return at all in the school year. So we have been, for the last couple of days, trying to make the adjustments to that. We have been anticipating it and have been doing some work on it. Obviously, we have a remote learning plan in place that now we know is going to extend through the rest of the school year. The Department of Education is in the process of developing some additional guidance on the future of remote learning within the Commonwealth. There are school systems all over the place on what they're doing and how they're doing it. Every school is impacted differently, from schools in Western Massachusetts who actually truly struggle with internet bandwidth to school systems that have been doing some form of blended learning, remote learning, virtual learning for some time now. So this slide just talks about what DESE has done. They have launched a remote learning essentials initiative. They're focused on addressing access to tools and internet connectivity. They are looking they're conducting surveys of us and what we're doing, what our technology is. They've also developed an advisory group that will be issuing a formal document for providing additional guidance for school systems on the next phase of remote learning as we go for the rest of the year. The commissioner has talked about the state's response to COVID-19 as having 4 phases. It was the initial school closures, and we, as you know, in line with this response plan, the first thing that we did was to have our grab-and-go meal service up and running on, actually, I believe it was on the Monday, after we decided locally to close with the mayor and myself decided to close on that Friday. And then on Monday, we were up and running with our grab-and-go lunch program, which continues to this day. And in servicing, we have as high as 500 students being serviced in a day with that program. Then the initial remote learning recommendations came out. This was before anyone was really sure how long school was going to be closed for. We, in that first week on Wednesday, we put out some remote learning resources on our website, thanks to work done by Assistant Superintendent Lee and the directors. The directors really took the lead and have taken the lead in the first several weeks of development of remote learning plan, and the principals, in coordination with the principals, have been working on it. In that first week, we put a resource page out on our website, just in an effort to really try to get some materials and information out to families. And then shortly after that, in the following week, we had a more formal remote learning plan with a fully developed website that we are still using and accessing today as we continue to provide remote learning. We also, as you know, spent a lot of time issuing, through our tech department, Rebecca Kickwell, issuing Chromebooks to students and families who did not have any device access, as well as hotspots to families who didn't even have remote connection access, to try to really make sure that all families that needed to have the right devices and tools that they needed to access remote learning had them. That work happened over the period of a couple of weeks. We still occasionally are issuing Chromebooks. It's more school-based at this point, but we still have families who are in need. But you'll hear tonight that our level of engagement is actually extraordinarily high. So thanks to the principals and the work of the directors. And then we know that at some point we are going to be reopening our school. Hopefully it is September. And the department now is working on guidance for even potentially opening something during the course of the summer, depending on the current health crisis and how that trends. And we all have to be thinking about fairly soon. Obviously, we've got a lot to do in terms of closing out the year and making sure that we address the kinds of assemblies and activities and events that our students deserve, from seniors to our kindergartners, preschool, and trying to figure out ways in which we can recognize and carry out those ceremonies, which clearly is going to be a challenge. That process has actually started a couple of weeks ago, and we will be continuing to work on it involving both parents, students, and faculty. So that was just part of the 4-phase response that was provided. And again, additional guidance will be coming out this week. Now, I'm just going to go to administrative updates. And I would ask that Assistant Superintendent Lee jump on and walk us through a couple of these slides. And if both Mr. Sheehan and Mr. Rainey could be available to speak to some of the slides that are middle school specific.
So the first slide, we talk about student engagement, and as we've discussed previously, the first priority we had, beyond ensuring that kids were fed and obviously the safety and security of the buildings and staff, was about making sure that all of our students could participate in the educational opportunities we were presenting. As the closure has gone on, as Dr. Hackett explained, our tech department has done an extraordinary job getting devices out to families that did not have access to them, and internet hotspots out to those families that could not get internet on their own. So over the first couple of weeks of the newer remote learning plan, we have asked building principals and teachers and administrators to make sure that we connect with as many students as we possibly can. And so the slide before you demonstrates how effective they have been in that effort. So at this point, the term engage means that we have made contact with the family, we are working directly with the family, and we are working to improve the educational experience that that particular child has received. The percent not engaged means that at this point, we still have not been able to make contact with them. But if you look at some of the percentages, they're incredibly small given our circumstances. At Braintree High School, 0.6% of the kids have not yet actively engaged with the school. At East, it's 2%. South, we didn't even list because they've reached 100% of their students. Liberty, the same. Ross at 1%, Morrison at 1%, Hollis at well less than 1%, and Flaherty at Highlands at 1%. And this is testimony to the efforts of teachers, guidance counselors, school psychologists, building principals who have gone out and above what is necessary to make sure that they engage and touch base with kids. We've had some of our administrators literally going to homes to check on families, to make sure that they know what we're doing, and to be able to offer some support in terms of getting them to participate in school. So the numbers are truly extraordinary. The experience right now for every kid is a little bit different. We have kids who are struggling in the remote environment, but we have people working directly with them to support them through it and to make sure that we're prioritizing the things that they need to be successful, not only from an academic standpoint, but from a home environment, safety and security atmosphere as well. Making sure that the parents have what they need to be able to access the educational opportunities coming through the internet, and where to reach out for resources if they need English language services, special education services, or anything else that might impede their learning. So it's a very fantastic start, and we'll continue to improve upon it.
Mr. Lee, if my math serves me right, we've got a participation rate that exceeds 99%.
Correct.
Well, that is a testament to our administration and our staff. Thank you very much.
Just to jump in for a second, Jim, before you go to the next slide, I'm getting some text messages that our line here is providing a lot of static, so we're going to try to jump on a different way, but we do know that we're, for whatever reason, on this phone line getting static, so.
Yeah, I think it's the phone in that office, like, because George and some other people coming through very clearly.
Right.
So, John Chan, the slide in front of you talks about 2% of middle school students at East have yet to respond. But John Chan, if you don't mind jumping in and just explaining some of the steps that you've taken to try to reach those families and the success you've had reaching others.
Sure, that'd be great. Can you hear me, Jim?
I can.
All right, terrific. So the 2%, less than 2% was a figure I gave you, I think, yesterday. But presently we are under 1%. We've had a couple of other families respond to us. And I just want to give you an idea of why it's been challenging to reach some of these families. Some of our families have actually moved out of town, either temporarily or permanently. Some families don't speak English at home, and communication has been very challenging. Some of our families have sick people at home. And some of our families just didn't have access to technology. But we continue to make efforts to reach out to them and provide support to those families. Some of the methods of communication that we've been using, email is the primary method. That seems to be the one where we get the most response. And then we'll reach out by telephone. We are using Google Classroom significantly with our teachers and students right now. And we've also used the Remind app, which is a great little text message application that is used by many of our teachers. If we simply can't get in touch with anyone, we send certified mail to those homes, try and see if we can get in touch with someone. And finally, we've had to get the help of state and local agencies to reach out to some of these families. Many of the families, or some of the families that we've been having difficulty reaching, have been involved with state and local agencies, whether they're supportive agencies that are helping with counseling, or some agencies such as DCF that are really supporting students who are in tough places. So we're pulling out all the stops, as that over 99 percentile will tell you, that we're really working hard to get in touch with every single student in the Braintree Public Schools.
John and Damon, you want to continue with this slide as well?
Yeah, I can keep going. This is John. So not only do we have students who are families who we've had tough time contacting in general, But we also struggle with a small percentage of students who are disengaged. They're not participating in the activities and lessons that our teachers are putting out for them, even with communication to the home. So we do have protocols in place for staff and for guidance and for administrators about what we do when students aren't completing work, or the work doesn't show the level of effort that we would hope to see out of students. So when the work is put out there and teachers are not getting a response, those teachers then reach out to students and families. Again, the primary method is through email, Google Classroom. And then if they feel comfortable or safe making a phone call, because teachers need to also protect their own privacy. We've given them the tools they can use to do that, punch in a code so you won't be giving away your own private number. But teachers then also, in some cases, reach out by phone. And if they don't feel comfortable doing that, guidance or admin will do that. And it might not be an individual teacher reaching out to a student. Might be a group of teachers having a problem or communicating or getting some work. So one teacher may call on behalf of a team of teachers. If there's no response, the engagement doesn't improve, then it kind of goes up the chain to guidance and building administration. And we call families, I call the number of families today, guidance works together weekly to review students who may be disengaged or not participating. And we follow up with those families. And then we follow up with the teachers to let them know where we are. What I want to make clear though is we need to always think about what context is for them being disengaged, not participating. We need to always consider that there may be an issue hindering the student's progress. It could be a language barrier. It could be some type of learning challenge. It could be a barrier with technology. It could be an issue at home. There are so many things going on right now that we can't assume that a student is just not putting any effort forward. So we have to consider that as we call and we encourage and support those families to get their students engaged. That's it.
And to piggyback on that, the conversations we've had as a leadership team, the experiences John is having with students at East is very similar to experiences all building principals are having. So one, we have reached out, connected with families, but yet, have them participating with us. But the next challenge is to work with individual families and students so that they can get the most out of the remote learning plan. And as John mentioned, every family is different, every child is different, every circumstance is different. So principals and guidance and school psychologists are working with staff to make sure that we're giving them individual students the appropriate support that they need in this different type of environment so that they can be successful. So 99% engagement, we're in contact, we're working with families. The next challenge is to make sure that they're getting the most out of what we're offering and we're providing the level of support that they need to be successful.
Right, and with that, there are, like there are any assignments, there are deadlines, there are expectations that we would hope our students would meet or approach. And one of the things that we do is we assign work each Wednesday morning, part of the remote learning plan. We assign work Wednesday mornings at 8 a.m. And that is a schedule for the week. The work is due the following Tuesday by midnight. Hopefully they're not up at midnight trying to get it all done. But that's the kind of the schedule. Wednesday, 8 a.m., work goes out, and by the following Tuesday at midnight, the work should be back. But again, going back to extenuating circumstances, we will accept any assignment that's turned in without penalty after the deadline. Part of the remote learning plan, part of the spirit of what we're trying to do here. And our role is not punitive. Our role is to encourage students and support families to submit assignments by the deadline and give them the feedback that they need to ensure that they're understanding the material. I'm not sure, David, are you on the line? No. Okay, Damon has a couple kids and an essential worker wife, so didn't expect you to be available. But let's talk a little bit about teacher feedback. That's one.
Oh, wait,
thing
I figured it out. Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself.
Can you
Damon,
tell me how to do that later on, Damon?
Damon, you want to hit the slide feedback?
Sure, the teacher feedback?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so sorry, I was putting dinner on the table, so I'm listening with one ear or half an ear. But I did hear what John was saying too about what we're hearing from teachers is that the feedback is their opportunity to make some of that personal connection with kids that they are missing to some degree, to a large degree, but also that the kids are really desperately missing. And so trying to put that, the spin on acknowledging as much as the kids are putting in, because this has been a huge shift for the teachers. And now that they're getting work back from the students, it's very rewarding to see that the kids are making that shift too, you know, and I think it's really hard we're dealing with adolescents who are biologically wired to want to socialize outside of their family. And so, oh boy, we've got technical difficulties at the home TV here. So that's what's really lacking, and that's what we're trying. The teachers are taking advantage of that feedback opportunity to try to reach kids and keep them engaged, so that, you know, we're saying to them, it's not so much every single task as much as it is staying active, staying involved, and looking at opportunities to hear their voice shining through during this time.
And to follow up with Damon, who apparently has some other responsibilities he needs to immediately take care of.
So sorry.
One of the things we've begun to extend ourselves into is looking at interactive virtual learning. As Dr. Hackett has mentioned previously, we have been slow to really engage with that, largely due to security concerns that we have, and ensuring the safety of our staff and our students was our primary reason for not doing much with it up until this moment. However, as the school year has, you know, we're going to be closed for the remainder of the year, and as those companies have done a lot of work in terms of improving security around their platforms, we are looking at doing more with that type of interactive, face-to-face virtual experience for our students. And what we're really trying to decide at this point is what form should it take, given whether it's elementary, middle school, or high school levels. What do we want to get out of that experience for kids and staff? I think, as Damon indicated, one of the biggest things that's currently missing is just social interaction, not necessarily academic, but just a chance to see your teacher's face and have a conversation, or a chance to participate in a classroom conversation with your peers. Obviously, that is something that kids have been deprived of up to this point. So we are actively meeting to discuss ways that we can use that in a positive way to address some of the concerns that have been expressed, now that we do believe that there are safer and secure ways of handling that type of medium.
Jim, you want me to talk about middle school grading?
Yes, please, John.
So grading in East and South is a little different than at Braintree High School. As you know, high schools work on a credit system, credit or no credit system. And we were not comfortable with using language given our situation of students passing or failing. So we came up with an evaluative term that we felt really comfortable with. We're using the language meeting expectations or approaching expectations. So these remote learning assignments are not graded on the mastery of the learning standards. Teachers are using a weekly grading rubric which measures both participation and engagement rather than mastery of material. Teachers are tracking student submissions and participation for each week. And when students aren't meeting their expectations, when they're approaching expectations, their names will be forwarded to admin and guidance for us to follow up. And I'm sure the teachers have already attempted to reach out, but we would like to also support them in those conversations. And we really believe that For years, we've been encouraging students and staff to adopt a growth mindset. And we really feel that the term approaching expectations represents the idea of not yet for students and families who may or may not be struggling.
Next slide.
Okay. So we've, like everyone, we've modified our marking terms. Term 1, term 2 are what they are. For semester courses, meaning they've already taken the course semester 1, they may have had an art, but they don't have it semester 2. So if you had art semester 1, terms 1 and 2, your grades are what they were. Nothing has changed. For semester 2, for a semester course, if you're taking art term 2, your grade will not be broken down into term 3 or 4. It'll be simply extended term 3. And that goes the same for all full year courses, your core content classes, math, English, science, social studies. Your term 1 and 2 grades stand, and your term 3 and 4 are combined into what we're calling extended term 3. And those that extended term 3 grade will be either meeting expectations or approaching expectations. Once again, we're not working on a credit system, and we hesitate to talk about passing and failing. And these terms really, we feel really comfortable they are connected to a growth mindset and are really considerate of the situation that we're in right now. That being said, also, there will be no final grades where we've averaged all 4 terms together or all 3 terms together. So this is what students will see. An extended term 3 grade of meeting expectations or approaching expectations.
Is that the last slide on this topic? I thought there was another one.
Seems to be. I will say just I could give you some takeaways that I'd like to leave.
Can they hear us? All right, everybody, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, having some technical difficulties here, sorry. Can everyone hear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I appreciate that, both Jim and John. Damon, thanks for jumping in. I know that the chair might, are there questions from the school committee? I don't mean to take the chair's role, but we've had a little bit of, we're still having issues with the connection. The only statement I would make, this is Mr. Devon, is that, John, you've always said that as our students.
We lost him.
He's gone.
Believing that technical difficulties have taken over in that particular office. Are there other questions that people who can communicate still have?
Yeah, it's George. I just want to make a couple of comments, if I may. I want to first thank the administration, Jim, and all of you, Damon, and all. I think that you've done a great job in these trying circumstances where there was no playbook to really, kind of put this together and give it some meaningful ability for the students. So, again, I commend you. And I know that we're working on the next phase because I think that's one of the concerns that has been voiced continuously by parents is just, the lack of real engagement or the kind of engagement that students have when they're in the classroom. I will tell you that I participated in an MASC event last night where there were about 200 school committee members from around the state. And, I'm very proud of the work that we've done. Although we don't have that direct engagement, I can tell you that, just listening to the group that I participated with, there are people in very different stages of remote learning from, still distributing devices to, trying to assess the plan and things like that. So I think, as a town, I think we've taken on the challenge where there wasn't really a playbook to tell us how to do this, and really, come a long way. And hopefully we'll, with the guidance that comes out tomorrow, we'll get further into, getting that engagement back, which I think everyone misses. So thank you.
Thank you. And again, it really is testimony to the work of not just John and Damon, but the other building principals, and certainly all of the directors who have worked closely and collaboratively to get to where we are today. And at the same time, yes, we have moved slowly and cautiously in terms of virtual interaction because we want, number one, everybody to be safe, obviously, but at the same time, we want it to have value. We want it to be meaningful. And so we need, as a group, to determine the best way to make that happen for our kids in an environment that we now believe can be safe and can be secure.
This is Carla.
Okay, people, I think we're back. Yes, yes.
Sorry, the town's calling my house phone. I just want to say the engagement rate is unbelievable. I'm quite impressed with it. My sister was, oh, sorry, this is still, Mr. Kokoris is still talking to me. In one county in Texas, 17,000 children are off the grid right now doing no schooling. So us having such a low rate of non-participation is amazing. Like, way to go.
Thank you. And, as a leadership team, that was their first priority, like connect to every kid. And the results speak for themselves. They've turned over every leaf, every barrel that they could to get to people, to make sure that we knew where they were and we understood what we could do to help support them.
Well, Mr. Lee, here's a little bit of feedback. I got an email from, I can't really say my daughter, but my daughter's teacher, as far as her not completing the work to be able to get the sufficient credit. So therefore, we know what our homework tonight's going to be. So not only are we making sure our children are engaging, but we're getting feedback as to the quality of the work that they're giving forward. So, I mean, we're taking off, and I think it's important that people realize that, the system that we're trying to use didn't exist in this district a short 5 or 6 years ago. So from coming out and getting the computers out there and now wiring with the grant that we received and the help through the mayor's office, we were able to wire our schools. Is it perfect? No, it's not. But I think these numbers reflect that in spite of us being, shall we say, new in this environment, that we're thriving. And that's a testament to administration, teachers, and parents too.
Agreed.
Okay, so we're back. I want to make sure that no one interprets our technology skills in my office or judges that as a statement on the technology skills that exist within the school department with our professional staff. So I am hoping that everyone can see now my shared screen. If we're all set, if I don't know if there are any other questions from the school committee, but our next order of business is to talk about the FY21 budget recommendation.
No, I just wanted to say, John, I didn't mean to leave you out.
That's okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Hi, this is Kelly Cobblemere. Is it okay if I ask a couple questions?
By all means, Ms. Lemay, take it away.
Okay, thank you. And this may be premature because I know that you mentioned, Dr. Hackett mentioned that the DESE will be coming out with further guidelines tomorrow, but I have had a number of inquiries from parents regarding special ed and, IEP processes. And I'm just wondering, will that be something that will be addressed after tomorrow? And if so, who should the parents reach out to if they have questions about, how districts are collecting data and different information about IEPs?
Well, I'll speak to just a little bit of that, specifically as it relates to IEP meetings, team meetings. Our special ed department is beginning, I believe, next week, rolling out virtual meetings using Google Hangout. It'll roll out slowly, but we do need to complete a number of IEP meetings between now and the end of the year. and we'll be doing it virtually for those parents who will allow us to work with them in that way. Our staff has been going through some training to make sure they know exactly what they need to do in that virtual environment to make sure the IEP meeting is done correctly. But we'll begin having those meetings online throughout the course of the rest of the year, starting very soon. I think that was your question. If it's different, please let me know.
No, I think that's, that pretty much answers my question. Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Jim, can I jump on that real quick?
Yep.
One of the questions I believe was who do the parents contact when they have questions? Please have the parents contact their child's liaison.
Okay.
Our special educators, man, they've been working really, really hard and probably have the most direct, regular contact with students of all the teachers. So please have any parent with a concern or a question to directly reach out to the liaison in the building.
Okay.
The other thing I would say is if anyone's concerned, you would mention if people were concerned about getting services, if anyone was concerned about that or didn't get the, had questions about the liaison's contact with them, to obviously reach out to the building principal. Just to remind the community that the building principals are still on email and can answer emails more easily necessarily than picking up voicemails.
Great.
Not in the office.
Okay. Thank you both.
Ms. Lemire, did you have another question or comment?
No, I think that's it. Thank you.
Excellent, you're welcome. Anyone else? Any other comments or questions on this subject matter? All right, hearing none. I'm sorry. Nope, didn't hurt. Hearing none. We'll go forth with our finance and operation. Actually, the review of the fiscal year 21 budget recommendation. Dr. Hackett, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to call up the slide presentation. And I would ask if the chair of the Finance and Operations Subcommittee, Mr. Kokoris, could start us off.
Thank you, Dr. Hackett. The Finance and Operations Subcommittee met earlier this evening to review the slides that you'll see this evening. I think we were all in consensus that what we're going to put before you this evening was a very good effort to address our needs for fiscal year 21. As I mentioned earlier, this was another topic in the roundtable discussion that I participated in last evening. And I can tell you, not to take away any thunder from Dr. Hackett's presentation, but we certainly sit in a better place as a town and as a school district than many of the folks that I listened to last evening. Some of that obviously has to do with the current situation with the health crisis, and some of that, obviously has to do with other issues in other cities and towns around the Commonwealth. So with that, I'll let Dr. Hackett go through the presentation, and hopefully the committee will have questions and we can address them as we go forward. So Dr. Hackett, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kokoris. So I would just start off by thanking the Finance and Operations Subcommittee for the hard work. This process has gone on for several months now. The last few weeks has been remotely, and we are facing some significant challenges, not just as a school system, obviously, but the town of Braintree. We've been working very closely with the mayor's office and Mayor Kokoris. I have met with Mayor Kokoris and his staff several times, and we are one department of the town. There are needs in every department, and there's only one pot of money, so to speak. So I truly appreciate the cooperation and the help, and the support from the mayor and the mayor's office. We feel very good about this budget. I think the mayor's done a tremendous job, along with Ed Spellman, the Director of Finance, and Nicole Taub, the Interim Chief of Staff, in really trying to forecast what is a pretty tough environment to forecast revenues in. And so to the fact that we're presenting a full budget, a full fiscal year budget, understanding that things could change over the course of the year, and recognizing that we need to be flexible and nimble as we go through the fiscal year 21. But the fact that we are presenting a full 12-month budget is really quite extraordinary, and I think hopefully provides some comfort to not just teachers and staff and students, but clearly to parents and the larger community. So with that, I would just open to talk about the fact that I've got the wrong slide presentation up. And again, I really hope that I'm not being used as the model for how good our tech department is. And I'm not feeling very thunderous at this particular moment. So you stole nothing away from me, Mr. Kaboris. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about the budget. We offer these slides up every year. And enrollment itself, total enrollments for the school system, and the trends that we realized over the last 10 years, as you can see, going from 2009 of 5,377 to a high of last year of 5,842. And these are October 1 counts. We have dropped a little bit, October 1 of 2019. But generally, as we look at our trend and as we look at enrollment projections, we will level out for a bit. We may see some bumps along the way, but we're really trending to stay just about where we are overall. Just by grade span, to show you, the top line is all of our elementary schools. And as you can see, and as we know, we have some bubbles that are starting now to make their way into the middle school. We'll be fully in the middle school and actually starting to head to the high school next year. But you can see that the elementary is starting to taper off a little bit. There's some challenges with that in terms of the fact that we're not in a place where we're losing enough enrollment in any particular school location, other than a couple that we've been really able to kind of reallocate resources to bring those resources into the middle level to deal with the bump that we are experiencing there. The next line down is the high school. You can see that we are trending up there from 1654 and 18 to 1715 in 2019. And the final green line on the bottom is our middle school population, which will be climbing again next year as the current fifth grade, which is a large class, moves into our middle schools. And then obviously at East Middle School, we'll be opening with 5 through 8. We are anticipating that opening enrollment to be around 1,100 or so for the first year. This is by school, just to show a little bit about the challenges that we have going from school to school. You can see that we're seeing some bumps in some schools. A good example of that is Highlands, which is light blue. We gained a few kids over the course of that. Of course, they don't all show up in the same grade level, thankfully. So we've been able to really accommodate those numbers fairly well. Hollis is fairly level, and I would just point out the significant drop from Liberty from 460 to the current 401 is really a direct result of our flexible boundary policy, which allows us to send students from Liberty who are otherwise would be going to Liberty to Hollis to help really level out the enrollment at Liberty, which was really our fastest growing school over the last few years. You can see also Ross has dropped enrollment fairly significantly over the last couple of years. We have reduced a couple of our grade levels to 2 sections versus 3. And as we bring our 5th grade out of Ross next year, into East Middle School. The population of that school will be significantly smaller. The good news with that is the fact that we still don't have dedicated spaces at Ross for media library, for any kind of art or music classrooms. So we will benefit from having some additional space there. But as I've said before, we really do need to continue to keep an eye on Ross enrollment and Flaherty as well. As you know, they are relatively on the same side of town, and we're just not seeing the population growth there like we are in Highlands and in Liberty. Morrison similarly has dropped over the course of the year, but the population in Morrison seems to change quite a bit year over year. So there's no, even though it looks like we have a little bit of a trend down, the experience has been, it really doesn't, it doesn't trend in a predictable way. The demographic of our school department has changed dramatically over the last several years, going back to, if we just look at 1997-98, the percentage of students in our district that are from each one of those categories of race. You can see in 97-98, the percentage of students who are African American, for example, is 2.5, 2.9 Asian, 1% Hispanic, and we have a population at that time of 93.5% of our students were white. We were talking earlier in the Finance and Operations Committee, it's not reflected in this budget, but we do feel that we want to increase our Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander population of students. So we were talking about whether or not we should do some recruiting efforts and send some administrators and school committee members over there for a while, but we decided that we probably shouldn't spend that kind of money right now. So, and then as you go across the rest of the rows, and if you just go right to 2019, 2020, again, just in comparison to 97, 98, you can see a pretty dramatic difference in the percentage of categories, from 4.6 African American, 21.6 Asian, 4.7 Hispanic, and 67.2% white. So we are changing school community. We have been responding as fast and as best we can to that change. It has presented some challenges to us along the way. We obviously always could be doing better, but we are, that growth that we saw earlier is not just growth in population, but it's also a changing demographic that brings us both new diversity and great opportunities and great challenges, in taking them all in and trying to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all of our students. This slide shows the number of students who are English language learners by school. And again, if you just go from the 2015-2016 school year of 228 total to the 2019-2020 school year, the year that we're in, of 339, there's been a pretty steady and somewhat dramatic increase in the number of students who are English language learners. That has also required us to rethink our resources, to add resources, to provide students who need support in accessing their education due to language challenges. That definitely has had an effect on how we prioritize both programming and resources over the last several years. And you'll see some of that in the slides that are coming up that kind of map out what we've been able to do in prior fiscal years to address various issues. This slide shows the percentage of students in our school system who are actually receiving English language learner services. 2013, we had about 2.6% of our students receiving them. And then in 2020, this current school year, we're at 5.8%. So going over the next column, clearly less than the state average, but when you go from 2013 to 2020, there's been a fairly, well, it's almost doubled, has doubled the number of students who are receiving actual services. The third column over is the percentage of students who, for whom English is not their first language. They're not all students who has their language is not, first language is not English necessarily receive English language learner services. So you can see in that particular column also a fairly significant increase in the number of students in that category, and in fact, not too many percentage points behind the state average. So that again, obviously reflective of the slide shown previously. So as we talk about the FY21 budget, we like to start with just kind of a little bit of a 3-year review, particularly especially the things that the accomplishments that we've been able to pull off over the last 3 years, and also how we've been able to, the accommodations and changes that we've made to address our changing demographic and some of the other challenges that we face as a school system. And these are additions that were essentially above what we call level service budget. So the budget that just rolls everything forward and allows us to provide the same level of programming to our students in our community that we received, that we provided in the previous year. We call the level services budget. That's our starting point. And these items are actually items that were above that level of budgeting, which you will also see tonight. We do have in this recommended budget, we have some additions that are above level service that are addressing some of the changes that we'll be faced with next year. So not to read down through all of them, but in general, a good portion, a good percentage of the, from a dollar standpoint, of these additions are related to special services programming. The town of Braintree and Braintree School Department has always done a tremendous job in providing special services for students, and have really always focused on the fact that we want our students, to the extent that we can provide programming, to stay within the town of Braintree. There are a lot of reasons why that is a priority for us and a core value. Not specifically that, students being in and among their friends, going to school with their neighbors, the fact that our general education students have the opportunity to see their peers and their special needs peers, and to be able to work with them is a tremendous experience for everybody. With that, however, because we have to build the capacity for those programs at all grade levels, there is a cost to that, obviously, to establish those programs. And in the FY 2018 school year, one of the things that we needed to do was create what's called our ABLES program for students that were coming up from the elementary level into the middle school level. And that initial program setup, like anything else, there's the startup cost. And in the FY18 budget, those items that are in blue for the ABLES program made up a significant portion of the things that we were able to do above level service budget. And the other piece of us keeping our students in Braintree that also is helpful beyond the fact that it's a core value, it's what we want to do, it's ethically the appropriate thing to do, is that we also avoid costs of out-of-district placement. So while we look at, for example, in the ABLES classroom, staffing in that year cost $95,000, when you look at the cost of an out-of-district placement to a collaborative school, for example, that price tag can range anywhere for one student from $55,000 to $65,000, $70,000. So for one student to be placed out is almost the entire increase that we experience by staffing our own program. And we're talking about a program that services multiple students. So clearly there is an economic benefit, budgetary benefit to providing our own services, which is secondary to making sure that our students stay in our district, but it is an investment without question. And then in this particular budget year also, you can see the second row from the bottom, ELL translation and interpretation services. In this particular year, we needed to up our compliance with the legal requirements and had to make sure and ensure that all of our vital documents, such as handbooks, policies, were translated into our top 4 languages, and I believe 4 or 5 languages. So That is the service that generally has to happen by a subcontractor to do those translations. So we did a lot of work in that particular fiscal year with that. We also had to include an increase in the amount of money we spend on interpretation services, which would be for students who are trying to, or parents who are trying to meet with a principal or perhaps an IEP meeting, or even coming here to central office. We have a interpretation service that is actually based on the through the telephone. So a fairly good investment in meeting the needs of students and families who required those services. In 2019, you can see that we added a Developmental 1 program position to Morrison. Again, that was based on enrollment, included a paraprofessional with it. That is a special education program. We added to our Strive program as well, which is the high school special needs program. And then, not to, again, read down through all of them, but at the high school, we were able to add an additional guidance counselor in FY19, which dropped our caseload from 315 students to 1 counselor to 260 to 1 counselor, which was a really important shift and change for our kids at the high school level. And as well, that year we added a section of kindergarten, and we also added a biology teacher for the high school based on enrollment. In 2020, these are the items of the current year that we're in that we were able to add to the budget. You know, we added an entire special education program for our postgraduate students who have really essentially aged out of a high school program. That program is right here on Pond Street, and has received the support of the town, and it's been a tremendous partnership with the town with students who attend that program. We also added some support in ELA at South and a math teacher at the high school that year, and we're able to finally bring on a full-time facilities manager, which actually was a net budget reduction because we eliminated 1.5 positions elsewhere within the building and grounds department to create that position, and it's been a tremendous advantage for us, and we have definitely benefited from having one person who monitors both custodians and maintenance staff across the district. So for FY21, the recommended budget, and again, this is the budget we're moving forward to the school committee, looking for eventual approval, hopefully on Monday night. On Monday night, there will be a public hearing for the budget, and also we'll be asking the school committee to vote to approve the recommended budget, which will then be given to Mayor Kokoris for his consideration. This chart just shows that the current budget, FY20 in the top row, the budget we're in right now is at $70,628,795. Our first run of a level service budget back on January 3rd, 2020, that budget came in, and that was just rolling everything forward, and it was a rough estimate at that point. Came in at $73,769,070, which was a $3 million increase over FY20, or a 4.47% increase over FY20. We then went to work. We'll show you, what the kind of the reductions and adjustments we made. A lot more information became available. We really started getting a better picture on our staffing needs. Clearly, East Middle School was a priority as we move into that facility next year. There are definitely staffing needs that we need to address. So after many months and working through scheduling and really getting a better handle on the numbers, we brought in a preliminary draft budget that was 3.95% more than the current budget year of FY20. So we worked through that budget some more. And I'll show you the detail on that in the next few slides to develop the budget that we are recommending to the school committee at this point, which is a 3.67% increase over FY20 for a total budget dollar figure of $73,218,902, or roughly $2.6 million more than FY20. It's important, obviously, to remember, and I know I don't need to say this, but I will anyway, that we are a people business. Generally, anywhere from 85 to 90% of our budget is related to staffing. And then the remainder of our budget is essentially related to just the nuts and bolts, bricks and mortar of the school department. So in working from the FY level service, FY21 level service budget, there were several things that we needed to address, and increases, contractual increases and other increases that were fixed increases that we needed to work into the budget. That total increase was $567,258. I have a breakdown of the East needs on the next slide, but we are needing to spend about $330,000 more at East next year to accommodate the increased student population that will be coming there. We've done, Mr. Lee and the directors, the principals have just done a tremendous job over the last 2 years of planning, trying to figure out, what the staffing needs were going to be, what fifth grade teachers were going to be going to East Middle School, which ones may be staying where they were, who had the correct licensure. It's just been a tremendous effort, and I just want to thank them for all the work that they did on this. It's been really tremendous and a lot of moving parts. And now we're seeing it come to reality as we open the doors on all of East next year in the fall. So some of the other contractual increases, we do have an increase for paraprofessionals, $35,483. In the last negotiation round, we decided together that we have paraprofessionals who are working in our special education programs who truly are doing work that is above and beyond what we would generally be expecting of paraprofessionals. So from everything from being restraint trained to understanding how to work with students who need different resources and supports, we felt it was really important to have a differential for paraprofessionals working in those programs. Part of that is related to the fact that we do a lot of training with those paraprofessionals to be successful in those programs, and there's a cost to that. So if we are able to offer a little bit more money for them, we are hopeful that they will stay with us. Many of them are licensed teachers. So it's also an effort to reduce turnover of those employees so that we can hold on to them as they develop relationships with with special education teachers and students. Our special education transportation cost has gone up. It is a pretty significant bump. These are transportation vendors who are taking our students to out-of-district placements. There's a variety of reasons for this level of increase, part of which it often is a moving target. We haven't always budgeted as much money as we really probably should have in there, but we also have some long runs, runs into the city that take quite a bit of time, and we really need to address that and increase that budget line. Tuition reimbursement bank was contractual as well. This is an increase in the amount of tuition money that's available to employees in the BEA to take coursework, to work on their licensure, get the credits they need, work on master's and other degree programs. And then non-instructional software, maintenance software, $22,815. That is the implementation of Facilities Dude, which is Asset Essentials, and Event Manager is a module of that program. It's an extremely powerful program, and it really has come out of East Middle School. The initial expenditure on the initial setup of the software was accomplished through our building project, and it will help us, and is already helping us issue work orders to maintenance and custodians, but more importantly, to track our various assets, to start creating better schedules for preventative maintenance. All of the as-built for East Middle School, for example, will be loaded into this program. We will have the ability to walk into any given classroom, scan a barcode, and know everything from the color of the paint in the room to the type of light fixture that's in that room. We think over time it's going to make us much more efficient because we can standardize on certain supplies and equipment. It also will help us make sure that we're providing the kind of preventative maintenance in all of our facilities, but certainly in our new East Middle School to make sure that we keep it up and make sure that investment is maintained. The town of Braintree is also using facilities dues, so I think down the road and longer term, we'll have the ability to really have some synergy there with the town of Braintree Facilities Department. And then finally, you know, a fairly significant hit for us was Maya Insurance. That is through the town of Braintree. That is the municipal insurance that's most, I think really actually all municipalities in the Commonwealth use. That includes everything from vehicle insurance to liability coverage to property. So that particular dollar figure, that insurance coverage went up for next year. So that total is $567,258. As we look at staffing needs for FY21, we are carrying for next year a full-time assistant principal to help us make sure that we're providing a safe and secure environment. Obviously, with 1,100 students, we're going to need more than one assistant principal. So that we are carrying that cost in this budget. We've added a guidance counselor. That could be an adjustment counselor, but right now, as a placeholder, we are carrying it as a guidance counselor with the increased population to make sure that we're providing students with the social and emotional support that they need to be successful. We are adding 2 custodians to this budget, which, as going back to the earlier points, when we have a brand new facility, we have a lot more square footage, about 74,000 square feet more at East Middle School. We absolutely need to add to our custodial staff there. And then additionally, these fractional positions allow us to fill out the schedule at East Middle School. They actually are, these portion positions will actually be at the elementary school, but as we've worked through the staffing at East and the impact on our elementary schools, we needed to add staffing to our elementary schools in these categories to provide the current level of services that our students are receiving. So that total of $333,454 is part of the $567,258. Now, on the reduction side, we obviously had to make some fairly substantial reductions to get to the 3.67 budget that we're presenting. The first position we eliminated was the Director of Personnel and Student Services. That was a central office position. We left that unfilled this year, and are in the fiscal year 21, we are eliminating the position altogether from the central office. We are reducing a position, a teaching position at Liberty School, and just want to also say that in all of these positions, any position that's related to these dollar figures, there's nobody who's going to lose their job. This particular position ends up being a leave of absence, and based on the enrollment, based on the numbers, we are able to drop from 4 sections to 3 sections and still maintain a very favorable class size. We made various adjustments to the January 3rd level service budget. Again, a lot of it was because that was such an early draft and there was a lot of cleanup that needed to happen. That dollar figure is $117,000 or so. We have been able to reduce, going back to our earlier conversations about building capacity within the school department for our students with special needs. We have been able to reduce out-of-district sped tuitions by $345,000. Part of that is also related to some students who are aging out. We've also reallocated some expenses in the operating budget to a couple of our grant revolving funds, specifically to our integrated preschool revolving account, which we, as you know, collect tuition for our community partner students in that program. Some sped administration has been reallocated to grant as well as a pre-K teacher. We are being conservative with a reduction in our HVAC of $100,000. As we all know, this has been an incredibly unusual year. So as we did our ESCO investment, which was our energy savings project, a $10 million project that we did across the school system, adding new boilers, high efficiency boilers, insulation, multiple things, costs that will save energy costs. We know that in addition to having the fact that we've hired a plumber who has HVAC experience and do some of our maintenance work under the supervision of the facilities manager, we feel comfortable in making that reduction of $100,000. We believe going in FY22, based on a solid year of experience, it's been a mild winter, as well as the fact that now we're out of school, that we'll be able to take some additional reductions either in HVAC or in energy costs going in FY22. But we are comfortable that this is a responsible reduction, a conservative reduction at this point. We have moved some of our professional development monies, contracted services. We've been able to reduce it's a company called TLA that we've been working with on a workshop model, $82,000, and then some various other miscellaneous reductions on the bottom here for a total reduction amount of $1,105,872. So based on this reduction with this add, this $567,000 add, that combined dropped us from the 4.47 level services budget to our current budget that we're recommending to the school committee of 3.67. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I would ask if Mr. Koukouris wants to jump in and add anything, or Mr. Lee or Mr. Spellman.
Thank you, Dr. Hackett. No, I think you did a great job of bringing forward the discussion that we had earlier this evening. So I'll let the rest of the school committee comment as they may.
Chairman Devon, can you hear me? We're still having technical difficulties.
I can hear you, Tom.
All right, great. A couple things come forward as we start looking at certain situations with this budgetary period. There are a few things that encourage me, and it's not just about the money savings, it's about the philosophy. One, our special needs students, the fact that we look to try and keep those children in an environment they're become accustomed to, and keeping them within the confines of the town, a town that they're with their siblings, with the people that they know socially. The fact that over the years we've been able to develop programs that we are able to keep these children within the district. I think that's important on many different levels. And I think I said it before, Mr. Koukouris, I don't know if I'll say it as eloquently, but the fact that, yes, it's a savings, and that's great, but I think if you look at the bigger picture, the fact that it's the best thing for the student and for the child, for the family and for the siblings, and for the rest of our students that may not come in contact with special needs children on a daily basis, but this allows them to learn that too. So yes, it's a savings, but I like philosophically that it helps the children. You start looking at our maintenance program, a maintenance program that is shifted from just doing corrective maintenance and firefighting to attempting to do preventive maintenance on these buildings. The fact that we will be getting a new asset in the East Middle School that will have the right people in place in the software to be able to maintain that new asset so that its life cycle can be extended. And the philosophy that we have a maintenance director that's engaged, not just with the maintenance staff, but with the custodial staff. The fact that we're training these people, letting them know what the expectations are, so that we can better fulfill the needs of the individual buildings. And some of the other things that were on there, but it's just philosophically the fact that we as a district are changing. Are there any other comments or questions? Hearing none. I think where are we now?
We're good. Just a quick reminder, or just a quick update here. We do have a couple meetings on Monday the 27th, as I mentioned earlier. So the Finance and Operations Subcommittee will be meeting again, and the School Committee will also be meeting to hold both a public budget hearing as well as then in their general meeting to listen to this presentation again, perhaps, and ask any questions. We always obviously have time for feedback from both the school committee and administration and the public. We will take that all into consideration and make adjustments as we need to. I would just bring you back to the first slide here, sorry, if I can find the agenda here. I'm sorry, hold on just a second. Nope, I lost it, I'm good. So those agendas will be forthcoming. We actually posted them today, and we will continue to work on this draft. So thank you.
Okay, any other public comment?
Public comment again is available through either calling central office at 781-380-0130 or by emailing us at centraloffice@braintreeschools.org.
Any committee members have any announcements or comments?
Mr. Chairman,
By all means, Mr. Mayor.
thank you. I just wanted to thank Dr. Hackett, his staff, Mr. Kokoris, and the committee for all of their hard work in putting this budget together. It's been a collaborated effort with my staff and Dr. Hackett to try to work out funding sources, et cetera. And I just appreciate the hard work that's been put into it. And I want to thank Dr. Hackett and all the other folks that were involved in making this happen. So I appreciate all the hard work, Dr. Hackett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other comments or questions or announcements from school committee members? Seeing none, that's the full slate for tonight. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Ms. Dolan,
Aye.
Ms. Mayor,
Give me a second.
excuse me, Dr. Hackett?
Did you get a second on the motion?
No, you get a motion by them coming in.
Got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Mr. Mayor,
Aye.
Ms. Lemare,
Aye.
Mr. Kokoris,
Aye.
Ms. Soros,
Aye.
Mr. Chase. Aye. And the chair votes aye. This meeting is now adjourned. Thank you, people, for your
Thank you.
patience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.